Our vibration is our ultimate protection. We were all born with an innate attraction to things that clear our energy. If you're open to guidance, then guidance shows up in your life. Archangels, guides, extraterrestrials, ascended masters. I mean, there's so many different things out there. One moment of surrender changes your entire life. The Buddhas, the Jesus, the Gandhis, we have that within. People is realizing that a lot of what they have, a lot of what they seek, a lot of what they think is missing, it's all within. Love is the lubricant for light. Karma is vibration based. And you can dip or you can rise up. Sacred geometry is outside of you, it's inside of you, it's everywhere. It's the language of creation. We are creators of our own reality. Reality is malleable, it's very, very fluid. And if that's what you believe in and that's what you let your consciousness do, then that might be the reality that you're locking into. The universe and everything in creation is within us. We come here to raise the vibration of the planet. This is not our complete consciousness. We're part of something bigger and we fractal off. Have you ever heard of geopathic stress? When I was in my healing journey, I started over 20 years ago, I thought healing was lifelong. I thought, because everyone I looked at, they've been at 20, 30, 40 years and they're still healing, they're still shifting. And I was like, wow, this is, and for a while I thought it was till it wasn't. And what I realized looking back is healing is just a phase, right? Because the thing is, we weren't born broken. We weren't born imperfect. I believe we came here like, gifted, with so much ability and, high vibrational and then so many different things that life happens, right? Generational trauma, environmental, everything we're exposed to. Next thing we're now 1 or 2% of what we used to be or what we can be. That's why we have this feeling like, wow, I'm meant for more, because deep down you're meant for more, right? So to me, I think healing is just a phase, and if you do it right and you get the core, you get to the root, and you get to the things that matter, I think you get to a place to where you're not focused on healing. Now you're focused on thriving and expansion and enjoying, all the different, things life has to offer, and then that leads you to purpose, to where now like you're just craving purpose. You just want to give back because you have just have so much more that's flowing through you, right? So to me, I look at healing as a phase, because there's thriving and then there's purpose work and there's expansion and enjoying all that stuff. And a lot of times, people that are stuck in the healing phase, and I was in a while, it's definitely I feel like it becomes a prison, because you feel like you have to heal all your life, that life won't get better until you heal everything there is to heal, and then life can get better. In my experience, one layer of healing, you do it right, you get what you want, right? And then it just progresses along from there. So you don't have to have it figured out. You just have to address the thing that moves the needle to where your life is amazing, and everything else can be optional. You know what I mean? So to me, healing is a phase that gets you to return back to who you were, so that life can continue, right?
It's really refreshing to hear you say that, because I think I've always sort of pointed the difference between therapy and kind of coaching, being that therapy looks at your past and sort of helps you unpick and untether some things. But coaching tends to so I identify as coach and mentor, helps you look at your future and kind of where you're going. And there is an overlap, because sometimes when you're forward casting, there are things that are kind of like holding you back and you can't move forward on. And then taking a look back and going, okay, let's work on this. Like, let's heal it so it becomes unpicked, and then you can actually move forward. But I don't know, for me, and that's why it's called inspired evolution, because it's like, hey, there's that energy, a little bit frequency of like, where are we headed with all of this?
And actually, to the point, a lot, because I met a lot of people. I get them out of the healing phase, and I can see them. Their life is good. They have what they want, but their mind's still stuck with, what do I have to fix? What do I have to heal? And I'm like, you're good. You're good. And the thing is, to me, I love the challenge. I love the adrenaline. I love the growth. So even when you're not healing, all that energy can go towards learning, expanding, acquiring new skills. It can still have challenges, but they're not challenges that keep you in fight or flight or survival or safety. They're ones that push you to evolve, and it can still be challenging, but it's a different flavor. You're now in the, it's not survival,
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, you touched on this really briefly, but I'd love to double click on this point. There are three types of different energetic blocks that people have. Yeah, I'd love to get the insights from you in terms of what those three different blocks are. And even as we dive into that, I know I'm stacking two questions on top of each other. How do people identify when they've initially got a block? Like, how do you know you've got a block?
To me, having a block for people, it's some people can see, like, they can feel they have a block. But to me, it's like if there's an area of life that you're stuck and you're wanting results and it's not happening, like, you want love, but you're attracting toxicity and negativity and narcissism, or you want abundance and money and you're just having it there one day, gone the next, and then you just can't seem to crack it, right? To me, that's a block. There's a block in that area that's inviting you to learn the lesson, whatever needs to be clear, whatever needs to be healed, so that, and when you do, typically that goes away, right? Is what I've seen. And to me, there's a lot of different blocks. I mean, you know, there's ingested and applied. That's probably like whatever you eat, whatever you drink, whatever you apply, whatever you're surrounded. That's one block that I see that can affect us. There's one that's environmental blocks. Who do you surround yourself with, right? Is your energy, is your community, people around you, the place that you live in, is it draining of your energy, or is it fueling you? Is it supporting you, right? So that's a big one for people that, and what people don't know that I've noticed. Have you ever heard of geopathic stress?
Yeah, we've recently just been studying this on the podcast with like dowsers and feng shui experts. It's
Yeah.
really, really interesting. Like, is this like ley lines and song lines and stuff like this, man?
And it's places to where your energy is just it's repulsive. You just can't stay in there, right? You're just like, it's just not coherent and harmonizing with your energy. It might be for somebody else, but not for you. So there's that now you have to factor in, right? So there's that, and then I think there's some that are like traumatic life events, right? If something happened earlier on, and that situation for some reason unresolved is still showing up in your life and holding you back in some ways. And then to me, there's the generational. Gestational is when you're in the womb, mom goes through something tough, traumatic, and doesn't happen all the time, but the times where it happens, for some reason, that just affects you in utero. And then generational is like, your grandfather had it, your father had it, you have it. It's like the story of your family. Everyone just struggles with it, and it's like a sentence, and it's just an accepted story and limitation. It's just how it is.
Yeah, we were studying the geopathic stress, and apparently there's this really interesting case with geopathic stress in particular, that dogs actually move to areas that are like if your dog won't go to the place where geopathic stress is kind of occurring, they'll sort of move away from it. Whereas cats actually go and sit on areas where geopathic stress is like high to try and, because cats have this natural healing ability apparently.
Yeah.
I thought that was really fascinating.
And actually, I've never heard that. That is very fascinating. But it's funny because you can see cats sometimes can be hot and cold, right? And you can see it. You can see in Sedona, if you've never been, it's a energy center. It has vortex points, and depending on where you are, you can be very, very calm, or you can feel like a whirlwind, to where you can snap at any given second, like, oh, this is just too much, right? So if cats are absorbing both, they can be calm, and then they can, like, they're absorbing both energies of the masculine and feminine vortex energies from the ground. And to me, actually, animals are so in tune to energy more than, like, they bark at things that aren't there, and whenever something, like, there was a one time to where whenever we had somebody who had negative energy, our both of our pets would just throw up and barf every time. And they never do that. They would pee, they would barf, and they were potty trained. And the person would go away, and then it was fine. They come back again several months later and do the same. Because to me, like, animals are more in tune. It's more natural to them. And this energy thing, which for us, we've over time we've forgotten, but animals, they haven't. They don't have the programming that shuts it off. So they're still very aware and in tune with it.
Oliver, you mentioned Sedona and you mentioned the vortex. There are literally like landmarked like energy grids there and they always seem to be in these patterns which kind of look really amazing when you look at them, like the Merkaba is like 3D. And it's really phenomenal looking at. There seems to be a relationship, and I'd love to get your insights here. Maybe you can unpack this for us between sort of patterns and energy.
Mm,
You see patterns in the world, and then you
yes.
see and they say, oh, this is like there's an intentional pattern put here. This is an energy grid. This is an
Mm,
energy vortex. What
yeah.
is it about the relationship between patterns and energy?
I mean, I think the patterns that you're talking about and the ones I've seen, I'm actually teach it a lot. It's sacred geometry, and you see it everywhere, right? You see it to where have you ever seen those things to where they have sound, they have sand, and they have sounds that play, and then
Yeah, yeah.
they form different patterns, right? So to me, I mean, it's fascinating. You go to Sedona, you're gonna start seeing where when there's stronger energy and you're getting close to a vortex point, you're gonna see trees start to spiral around them as you get close to it, and that's how you know you're getting close to a vortex point is that they start to spiral. But to me, I think energy and sacred geometry go hand in hand. So to me, I view sacred geometry as the language of creation, because if you look outside of you, you're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it in pyramids of Egypt, spirals in the galaxy. You're gonna, if even if you just Google like sacred geometry in nature, you're gonna geek out and see it in honeycombs, in trees, in flowers, in seashells. And if you look within us, like the spirals in their DNA, our cells are spherical in nature. And then if you go closer to the DNA, you're gonna see we have octahedrons, two pyramids back to back. So to me, sacred geometry is outside of you, it's inside of you, it's everywhere. It's the language of creation, right? And it's just one of the things that gosh, I can go down the rabbit hole with you that all day long, because it's a very very fascinating language that I feel like when you understand it, it unlocks this whole new world of opportunity.
How do you intentionally go about using patterns at times to harness slash work with certain energies? Is that something that is possible, or am I just
Yeah,
making things up?
yeah. So that's one of the things that that I've been exploring for 20 years is like when I've seen like, and there's a lot of them. There's like of course, like pyramid. I'm under a pyramid. You can't see it, but I'm teaching under a pyramid because certain sacred geometries do different things. So there's this book. I think it's called The Power of the Pyramid. Or pyramid, I forget what it is. I'm gonna have to share with you later. But they did studies on pyramid technology, and and because the pyramids are designed to keep anything underneath it protected in status quo. So anything external can't affect you. It keeps you in homeostasis. So they did studies to where there was a burn there was a burn ward unit in Canada where patients had like severe burns, and they put patients underneath the pyramid, and patients and some patients not underneath the pyramid, and the ones underneath the pyramid they healed faster. And then they do that with produce as well. They put produce underneath the pyramid. The ones that are under the pyramid stay fresher longer. And my favorite one is this researcher named Bill Carroll. He did a study of brine shrimp, and one set of brine shrimp he put underneath the pyramid, and the other set he didn't. And the one that was underneath the pyramid, I think, if I remember it correctly, lived 3 times longer than the one that wasn't underneath the pyramid. So to me, sacred geometry has a lot of use: protection, activation, intuition, and astral traveling, all this stuff. But protection is one of the important ones as well.
Yeah, protection was one of those questions I had for you today because, on one hand, there's a whole body of work around energy and protection, which, but then there's also something when you speak to certain masters, and I've heard you say this yourself as well, which is the things around you only have impact on you if you give consciousness to them.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this kind of,
Mm.
I don't want to say a rub between there, but like there's a bit of a array between there in terms of, because oftentimes when you approach the work of protection, there's, how do you come to something like that without the essence of
Mm.
fear being behind it, right?
Yeah. The way I look at it is it's definitely in stages and phases. When I first started out, I was all about protection. Like, I was cutting cords everywhere, putting shields, worried about saging, like, a gazillion times a day. And I feel like I needed to go through that phase to realize that, oh, wow, I actually have control over my energy. I can go from feeling really, really crappy to feeling really, really good. And it gave me a sense of empowerment, right? And then looking back now, I realize ultimately our vibration is our ultimate protection. Because if you're in a high vibration, things don't get to you, things don't exist, things instantly resolve before it becomes an issue, and your vibration becomes your protection. It's like if you're in it's like I think about it like the sun. If objects come close to the sun, there's going to come a certain distance to where it can't even exist. It will melt. It will evaporate. It can't even exist when it gets close to it because it just the nature of the sun. It's intense. So to me, there are vibrations that are so high and so potent to where darkness, negativity can't even find you, right? So over time, that's the solution. But that takes work. That takes evolution. That takes you doing the work. And I'm a big fan of like, that's your goal. But in the meantime, here's your first aid kit to learn how to protect yourself because in the meantime, life can get better. And there's nothing wrong with a quick fix if you have the intention of, let me get to the root and fix it for good. Right. So to me, looking back, I'm like, I'm glad I have the tools, right? Because it helped me. It was a lifeline when I needed it, right? And I just know this is a better way. And at higher levels, that fear, that fear that's driving you to protect yourself becomes a hindrance, right?
Inspired Souls, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much for your subscription. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that button, hit the bell notification icon. Episodes like this coming out twice a week. Thank you so much for helping us champion love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet together. I guess the audience now wants to know, what do we do to raise our vibration?
Raise their vibration.
Yeah. What does that work look like? Because you mentioned the work.
Yep.
What does that work generally typically look like? How do people access this?
I mean, I look at everything like long term, short term, and I'm a big fan of doing both. Long term is like you're doing the work. I'm a big fan of energy healing, right? So I'm removing all the blocks, and it's like layers, of healing. But you're doing the work because when you remove the blocks, you naturally have a high vibration. It's just that you came here, things blocked you down, and that's what weighs you. But when you remove those blocks, you elevate, then you return back to that. So the long-term answer is, you're working on your blocks so that you don't have to ask the question, how do I raise my vibration, right? Because when you do the work, you're there after a while. And when I say after a while, you never know when it happens. It just happens and it hits you, and you're like, I'm no longer struggling with that. And it becomes an identity crisis and I met people in my workshops where I look at them and they come and the first thing they're like, I'm depressed, la da 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 da. And several months later they come back and they're like, I was like, how are you? And they're like, and they can't even say it. And it's like it dawned on them that like, wow, I that's no longer true. And they catch themselves in that kind of like identity crisis of what was for so long happening it has shifted. So for me, long term, removing the blocks. Short term, there's a lot of tips and tricks. I'm a big believer when it comes to raising your vibration. I'm a big believer in we were all born with an innate attraction to things that clear our energy, right? For some, like for my wife, for example, she wakes up in the morning, she journals, right? Because journaling is whatever's on your mind, in your heart. It goes from the energy goes from within you to pen and paper, and it's now released. That works for her. She also likes moving her body, physical body, like she's working out, like dancing, running. Because for some people, what lowers their vibration is just so much energy that weighs them down. But when you're moving your body, right, you're releasing that excess energy. So for some people, and you probably know some of them, like they got to go for a run. They gotta work out. That's their meditation. If they don't do that, there's so much energy and anxiety throughout the day. They actually have to do that, right? And then for my wife as well, solitude works for her. Like she has to be alone time. Because some people, when they're around other people, they can't help but help and lend their energy, and they're always giving, always helping, right? And that's just their nature. But when they're by themselves, now they can take care of themselves, and it happens naturally. Their energy just centers, right? And to me, it's like, I'm more of like salt baths, like, because for some people, water is cleansing, like the elements, the sun, like, they get sunlight, they feel good. If they live in areas where it's gloomy, they feel the blues. So for me, it's like looking at what you naturally are attracted to, what you love doing as a kid, what naturally calms you down. And even though like they seem simple, whether it's I'm hanging out with my pets, I'm listening to music, like I'm laughing and watching comedy, like I'm sleeping, because sometimes sleeping helps you clear. Like whatever it is that that helps you historically, I'm a big fan of just go all in unapologetically. And the harder the day is, the more of it you do. Not like I don't have time for it, the day is so hard. No. The harder it is, the more you've got to do and without any shame or guilt.
I think that's really profound, because when you look at it from a lens of energy mastery, it gives you the opportunity to sort of, I don't want to say, because for me, meditation works incredibly well, but I've got so many people that tune in. It's like, I've been trying to meditate for years, and it's, no, 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 no. And it's like, doesn't have to be it. Yes, meditation is invaluable, right? Like it's probably the most amazing tool, if I can say so myself. But then also, like you said, like it can be a walk in nature, it can be journaling, it can be dancing, it can be going to play some tennis, it can be walking with it can be whatever you need it to be that grounds you, that centers you. I mean, that sort of brings us into a question around, there are some people that are tuning in that identify as empaths and actively always taking on other people's energy. I know we talked about protection before, but there's this idea of people that are so open that they're influenced by others. What do you say to people like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same, and and a lot of the times, like when I look at empaths, there's levels to empaths, right? So a little quick crash course. Like there's empaths to where it's proximity based. You go to a mall, crowded area. Next thing you know, your energetic field is interacting with someone's energetic field, and when those collide or are entangled, there's communication exchange. So you're either whatever they're thinking, you're thinking, whatever they're feeling, you're feeling, or for some people, if it's physical pain they have, now the person has physical pain as well. So to me, there's, you're either a knower or a feeler or embodier. Knower is like, when those fields collide, you're like, they're off, something's going on, or maybe sometimes their thought patterns, you get access to it and now it shows up in your field and you're like, what's this? And you're like, this is weird. I never really think that this way. These are intrusive thoughts, right? Or it could be all of a sudden, they're feeling anxiety and then your heart beats fast and you're like, you're feeling the same anxiety as they have, and your body releases the chemicals or the hormones that one normally produces when they feel anxious. So to me, that's a little bit more debilitating for some when they don't know what to do with it, because you're going from 0 to 60, from calm to anxiety without any context. It's just that someone's next to you and you didn't know you were empathic. So that's hard for people at times. And then this embodier to where if they're having physical pain, you have it, right? So there's proximity, and people think the solution is I'm just gonna hide in my bed. I'm just not gonna go outside. I'm just gonna stay in my room. And I thought the same thing, thinking like, if I'm just in these four walls, I'm safe. But the reality is, energy travels. And because you have people that, have you ever had it happen to you to where someone's name pops in your head randomly? You think about them. The next thing you know, they're calling, they're texting, you bump into them, and you're like, what are the odds of that, right? And to me, I learned this before, to where when someone thinks about you, like energy can travel through thought and intention. And if you're sensitive or open, you can feel what they're feeling or what they're going through by them just thinking about you, or people who you're thinking about, you're wanting to help them, you're concerned about them. You don't know that energetic cords attach from you to them, and next thing you know, you don't have to be next to each other, because now those energetic cords is how you're absorbing what they're going through or feeling or tuning into it, right? So to me, empath is realizing that that's one part of it, because it's an incomplete story. To me, there's always more than one side of the story. If you can receive energy, you know, and be impacted by it greatly, then you can also, and what he talks about is, project that energy out intensely as well. Therefore, if you can project it out, to me, empaths are one of the best manifestors, unrealized, and empaths are one of the best healers, unrealized as well. Is that no one ever taught them that?
Wow, that's fascinating, because there was a point in there where I was going to be like, how do we cut cords? Because I think people talk about energetic cords and stuff. Is that because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Are there many ways, or there's a simple way to cut cords and stuff like that?
I mean, you definitely can cut cords. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I mean, not all cords are bad, right? Because sometimes, here's the thing. I cut, at the beginning, I cut all the cords because I was very, very fear-based. I was, I don't want the cords. I don't want anything, right? And sometimes you're going to realize that some cords are here to serve you. Some lessons are here to serve you. Not all pain is bad. Some pain here is here for a lesson, for growth. For example, if I have cords attached to my son, and if he's going through something, I really don't want to cut it unless it's debilitating to me because I want to know what he's going through. So as a father, I can help. So there's time to where it's not so much black and white. At the beginning, it was very black and white for me. I've got cords, I'm going to cut them. And the way I am, there's two ways you can do it, right? So one is like you visualize a white light or a purple light coming down. And to me, it's like always intention based. I'm like, God, higher power, universe, whatever you believe in, like, please help me, remove these cords. And I imagine like a purple light or gold or white coming down, filling me up, and then turning my hands, one hand or both hands, into swords, right? Like bright, almost like lightsaber, bright swords. And then when I'm ready, like, I'm just doing a cutting motion. Like I'm top of my head, I'm just cutting the cords that are attached to me. And you can visualize it or you can do it yourself, or in front of you, cutting the cords that are in front, the ones in the back, the ones in the side, and sending them all down to the ground, but just like cutting the cords that are draining you of your energy and vitality from people. And to me, when you cut the cords, it's always important to also replenish. So after I cut, whatever you replace, whatever you remove, you have to replace. So I imagine light fueling me up. Golden light, right? Rejuvenating me, replenishing me, and doing that. And the more advanced thing is after you do this, you can even imagine the person that's affecting you, triggered you, if they affected you, if they, caused you any kind of pain. Imagine them in front of you. And what I like doing is imagining that same light coming down from the skies, wrapping them up in this bubble of love, unconditional love. And they're wrapped in there, they're contained, they're in that bubble. And when I'm ready, I ask for it to be released. So I just imagine that bubble floating away, as far away as I can, into the horizon, returning their energy back to them lovingly, so I can feel my own energy, right? So that, to me, that's the practice that I do. It's like cutting cords, and then more advanced, like sending them off. And I've used that so many times in the last 20 years, I can't even count. But to me, it's like people think like, oh, I'm just visualizing it. They realize, oh shoot, that heaviness in my heart, that thing I was feeling, it's gone.
Lightness.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, that's how I cut cords. It's like cutting cords, whatever you remove, you got to replace, and send them off with love. Like send their energy off with love back to them,
Hi there, guys. I wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce you to my one-to-one coaching. It's something that I deeply love doing. As you can tell, conscious conversation is such a massive part of my life. And having one-to-one, deep, meaningful conversations with people where I get to show up as your brother or as the coach or as your mentor has been such a gift for me personally, and a gift for lots of the people that I have supported on the journey of living a more spiritually empowered, spiritually powered, spiritually aligned life. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's some examples of people all around the world that have experienced profound transformations through this coaching experience.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines. And
he's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing. And Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
In control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him, and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so hopefully that's inspiring your evolution onwards and upwards. And if you are so inspired to evolve, you can book in a one-to-one call with me directly at www.amrit.coach/life. And guys, if I can say so myself, I do think this is something quite special. Most people that I see building things online don't really work with people this deeply, this intimately, one-on-one as things start to grow, just because it is so time intensive. And yet I'm so deeply passionate about the transformation that comes from one-to-one coaching that just isn't available anywhere else. It would be my absolute honor and a pleasure to support your spiritual awakening, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfoldment. It is my life's work. I look forward to seeing you in the call. Back to today's podcast. And sometimes I've heard some teachers say that the earth absorbs all, so you can just drop the cords, give them to the earth, allow the energy to sink into the earth. But some people visualize...
I'm big on both. I'm big on like sending the cords down to the ground, to the earth to transmute it, or to the sky or the sun to transmute it. So you can do both, below earth or above to transmute.
Yeah, because sometimes someone's mentioned this to me a couple of times, which some different people have mentioned, like there's this cosmic waste bin out there somewhere and you can visualize it and put stuff in there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, is that a thing?
I've never heard that. Cosmic waste bin? I love that.
It's just like, okay, sure, I can't visualize it. For me, it's like there's a black hole somewhere that's just copying it from everyone that has this awareness.
Honestly, I'm going to try that one out, an energetic black hole. We just send it there, right?
Yeah, but I feel bad for everyone that's living in the galaxies that's in that black hole.
Oh, you're right. Because the thing is, you don't know where it ends up, right? Someone's just having a good day in another galaxy and it just hits them, right?
There's Amrit stuff just flying right at him. Yeah, it's interesting as well because thank you so much for that beautiful guidance as well. Talking about others, talking about within, because you speak to some Tao masters, some Chinese masters, they've got this awareness around the cycles of energy within the body in terms of like breathing up through the spine, breathing down through the front of your body, and you're trying to create these cyclical loops in your body. Energy practices for the individual that enhances their well-being, maybe even their spiritual abilities. I know you've got some practice around like third eye, like kind of centering into your third eye. Yeah, I mean, I'm just open to the field in terms of, practices for oneself in terms of energy regulation within the body.
There's a lot, and I guess the question would be, it depends on what the intention is. So for some people, for example, it's like when I'm looking at energetic practices, it's either energetic release, right, releasing negative stuff, or raising your vibration, right, which helps you with manifesting, or energetic practices for opening up your gifts and your abilities, which I think is another category, right? And then energetic practices for deep healing. So you've got the release that's more in the moment. You've got deep healing that takes a while. You've got things that raise your vibration, so that and when you're raising your vibration, all the ones below speed up, because at higher vibration, healing speeds up. And then there's the activation of spiritual gifts. So to me, I mean, I'm a big fan of layering, right? Trying as many things as you can out, and whether it's intention mixed with light that we talked about, or breath. People don't realize it, but to me, a breath can be a portal to access different types of consciousness, right? To where it's like, I'm a big fan of geometric breathing. Like I'm breathing in, inhaling, for 3 seconds, holding it in for 3, and then exhaling for 3, and doing that pattern while doing it with light. A lot of the times, to me, when you do that, you're just going to and we can try it out if you want to, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So what we can do is imagine a golden light coming down from the heavens, down from the sky, right? And it's touching the top of your head, and it's filling your entire body up with this golden light. Now, when you're ready, I want you to follow this light all the way up. Follow it up beyond your town, beyond your country, beyond Earth. And when you go beyond Earth, try to go as fast as you can to the source of the light. And as you're doing that, you can try geometric breathing. So inhale for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Hold it for 3 seconds. Exhale for and release for 3 seconds. Follow that pattern as many times as you can until you get to the source of the light. And use the breath as a portal to that next level. And when you get in that place, that inception point, that source of that light, I'm gonna just bask in it for a bit. You don't need to see anything, you don't need to hear anything. If you do, that's awesome, but the main point is just to get used to the frequency that's there, knowing that in that space, right, where there's everything and nothing, it's a place of creation. It's a place where thoughts materialize into things faster than we can even imagine. It's a place of instant healing. And the most important thing is just experiencing that frequency, what it's like. Letting that energy in that space infuse with your body, with your cells, with your energy. It's a place beyond what the mind can even comprehend. But your energy knows what to do with it. So just take a few seconds in that space. And then when you're done, you just, imagine coming down, back to earth, bringing a little bit of that with you here, knowing that you can access that at any time. As you land in your body, you might even have to ground, especially if you go really, really high. You have to ground a little bit deep. So you can imagine just roots coming out of your feet. You can see it, you can hear it, or you can even feel those roots interacting with the dirt, with the earth. And then just breathing in, letting the energy from the earth go into the roots, coming through your feet. It's lovingly grounding you in the perfect balance with an open crown chakra and also grounded at the same time, so you can actually integrate higher energy into your body, into the here and now, and kind of live in both worlds.
Whoa.
And for people they don't know, to me, it's like all about layering. It's about when you have the intention, you have the light, you have the breath. When you stack something that works by itself and you stack them all together, to me, it just increases the experience.
The amplitude across all of them. And so something like this definitely raises your frequency. I can see how things would move faster from this space as well in terms of working on your other energetic, I won't say devotions, but other energetic focuses as well, because you have so much more openness, so much more fluidity within your system to go ahead and basically tackle the things. And also probably a greater level of fidelity, right? Because you can probably tell when things are off when you're vibing at a higher level. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can tell when things are off. And what I like about the higher level things is it pulls you out of the forest. Because the thing is, my wife has a saying, when you're in the forest, you can't see the path. You're looking around, you see trees everywhere, everything looks the same. You don't know where the water is, you don't know where the exit is. You're just in it, But when you elevate beyond it and you look at the forest, you can actually see, and you have perspective. You can see the path. You can see what's going on. You have a full picture. And a lot of times when we're swimming in all this, energy in this world and all this different, things that, could be harmonious, could be disharmonious to our body, we're just so lost that we just need to elevate for a second to get a break and to get perspective.
The thing that also stood out to me there was how quick and effective that was. It wasn't something that had to go for hours and hours, and I needed to go away somewhere and get lost and find myself again. And yeah,
I was gonna say when I do that, I typically, this is new for me because when I'm doing my work, it's silent and I'm doing like energy work on people. Like I'm actually doing, clearing, doing all those different things. And I realize that's awesome, but I also want people to have tools that they can use in the meantime, right? And I started playing around with different modalities like mixing light, with intention, with breath. And when I'm doing the exact thing that I did with you, and typically it's like 20, 30 minutes. I walk them through it and let them sit and it's just an experience. But you did it fast. But to me, people that can do it fast are people that, in my mind, have done the work. So it's easy for them to go high vibration because to them there's returning to it, right? So they can, if you've been there before, it's almost like, you can get there faster. And the cool thing is you do it enough. You're going by your life randomly and that vibration visits you out of nowhere and you're like, how did that happen? I didn't even do any meditation. It just comes. And to me, that to me is a byproduct of you've done the work so much that it's integrated in you to where stressful things come and you're like, and it's just it just comes out of nowhere and you didn't do the steps because you've done the work, right? So to me, that's the fun part when everything starts to come together because you're embodying it and there's no more techniques because you become one with that energy to where it just shows up and it has your back whenever you need it, right?
Inspired souls, I'd love to hear from you what you're taking away from today's conversation, so rich from the Spiritual Activator in energy work. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a like, and also now join in on the conversation in the comments below. I mean, financial stuff, relationship stuff, there is so many angles that we're discussing, like the body and the soul and the energy and like karma and its energy. Wow. So many takeaways here. I'd love to hear from you. What is your biggest takeaway in the comments below? And also, I've got a bunch of questions. What are some of your questions that you've got for Oliver for the next time he's back on the podcast? Leave them in the comments below. I'd be honored to ask them on your behalf next time he's back. Back to Oliver. This opens up into a trippy question, if I may ask this. Are there go. I love you. We're cultivating a certain sense of energy within ourselves. Are there, some people believe that there are like spirits, guides, and angels that sort of support them on their way. Do they carry a certain energetic signature and frequency? And how does our energy interface with those energies if those things, have you contemplated this?
Oh, absolutely. Oh gosh, it's a great question, by the way. Yes, I believe. So, for example, archangels, right? Whether you're going with, archangels, guides, extraterrestrials, like, ascended masters. I mean, there's so many different things out there. But let's say you go with archangels, right? People that talk about Archangel Michael, he's like, angel of protection. People call him, they see him in pictures as archangel with a sword, right? Archangel Michael. He's also called the blue angel because some people that are able to see energy, they don't see Archangel Michael as a human figure. They see blue light because to me, like, when your energy form, you can be viewed at different levels, at light, at sound, at physical form, at sacred geometry, so on and so forth. So to me, I believe that each energy has its own signature of light or combination of light or sacred geometry, of sound, of vibration, and it's all in everything. And you get to experience what you want. And I've seen people that channel certain higher level beings, and depending on who they channel, their body moves a certain way. It's like a figure eight, and they even do a sacred geometry shape as they're channeling certain beings. And to me, I'm like, oh wow, they're having to do that shape because that's probably the shape or the sacred geometry that's the closest to who they're channeling. Therefore, as they're doing it, it almost acts like an antenna that they get a clearer signal because they're mimicking the shape in which they exist or they're in. Therefore, the communication is clear. right? So to me, I feel like it's all of the above: light form, sound form, sacred geometry, feeling, energy, visual, physical. Like I think it's all of it, to be honest.
That's so amazing. And what's clicking in for me as well is as you evolve on your journey, obviously your frequency and energy evolves as well. And then obviously you'd be calling in different guides because they have a different energetic signature and kind of frequency match to you at different points on your journey as well. So you probably have a different resonance with, and you can probably call in different types of support as you go on your way. Touch wood.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is you can call in different types of support, and a lot of times you don't have to, because when you're ready, they show up, right? Because I've seen it a lot of times. People like, they're like, I wasn't even ready, and these things are showing up. Because to me, support comes when you call it. Support comes when there is, a problem or an issue, and you need some saving grace. Support can come, or support can come because, you know, the world needs it. The state of the world is low. You're supposed to do something about it. You're supposed to step up. Support comes to wake you up so you can step up. Or at times it's because it's divinely guided for some reason beyond you that you don't even know the context. It's just time, and next thing you know, you activate because it's your time. And that's why you have a lot of people that go through life, and then boom, they get hit and their gifts open up. They don't know how it opened up. They're not spiritual. They didn't go to the pyramids. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to open it up other than it's time, right? So to me, there's lots of different reasons why people wake up, right? One of them is asking for it, but sometimes it just finds you.
Begs a question in my world, and this is not in the realm of energy previously, but I'm just going to try and see if there is a link there. So if you can honor that for me for a second, which is because sometimes I think stuff shows up in our life that feels great and feels awesome, and it's like, wow, like this is really my joy, my passion. Let's go, But then there's these other aspects of our life where it's like, oh, like, why is that happening to me right now? And then sometimes you look back 6 months, 12 months later, and it's like, wow, that was like the exact thing that needed to crack me to get me to where I am right now. And that's such a blessing. Does energy always feel good, or are there certain points where energy can challenge us? I've never really seen that lean into the world of energy, but I just thought I'd ask the question because life has this tendency.
I mean, I think of it as it gives us what we need, right? So for example, because energy can come in form of guidance and signs, right? So I'm going to go over guidance and signs, and I'm going to go over healing. So when someone's healing, and this is funny, when 20 years ago when I started doing healings, and when you're going through a healing phase, you got to remove what doesn't belong, and it has to be replaced. So when I did the healings at the beginning, people always, or for the most part, were purging as I'm doing the healing. Purging physically, like getting sick, and crazy things would happen. Like, one time, I did a healing on one of my wife's best friends, over a decade ago, and she was like, I'm stuck in this relationship. He's cheating on me. It's, and I want to break up with him, but I just don't have the courage to do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do a healing on you. She's like, okay, whatever. I'm like, have you ever had a healing before? She's like, no. I was like, I'm gonna give you a caveat. If I do a healing, then things that don't belong in your life, they might just drift away. She's like, whatever. She just wants the quick fix. I did a healing on her, and then next thing you know, she calls me up the next day because she was. We were at Florida back then, me and my wife Mandy, and she was driving back to California, and she was like cursing. She was like, "Fucking Oliver!" She called me up. I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Why are you mad?" I was like, after that healing, out of nowhere, he just broke up with me. Right, and it turns out to be great. Now she's married with a kid, love of her life. But to me, sometimes that's what healing is. It's not fun. You're purging. You're removing the thing that doesn't belong. It's painful, so it's being removed. It's being purged out. And it's kind of like when you go through a detox. You're going through, green juice detox. You're drinking that green juice, and you're like, it's healthy for me. Next thing you know, the toxins are being, flushed into your bloodstream, right? And you're peeing it out into your bloodstream. And in that moment where the toxins are being flushed out, you're reacting. You're having symptoms. You got a headache. You got a rash. You got a stomach ache. You feel like crap, right? So it's part of the healing is the purging. So to me, there is that at times to where healing you do it fast, you do it right, sometimes it can be tough. But then beyond that is great, right? So there's that. And then there's the other part of it, which is science, right? To where if you're open to guidance, then guidance shows up in your life. And sometimes it comes in whispers, and sometimes it comes in feeling like you got hit by a bus to guide you. Because to me, it's like, depends on what level of openness you are. But if you are, let's say, with a headphone and you're walking down the street and you're not even paying attention, and a car is coming to you and about to hit you, right? Do you want your guidance to be like, hey, stop, something's gonna come? Or you want somebody, to rush over, see what's happening, and tackle you? It's a moment of discomfort, but it saves your life, right? So to me, sometimes energy comes that way, to where you don't know why it happens. Doors are closing. You don't know why. You feel like things are against you. You feel like you're being rejected, but you didn't realize that if that door stayed open, it would have caused you 10 years of pain. And now you just avoided pain, right? So to me, you don't realize that till you're like, oh, wow. Like you said, that had to happen to crack this, and that's why I'm here. And a lot of times, once you see that cycle once, twice, and you realize things are happening for me, then you start to surrender more, realizing, okay, there's a bigger plan. I'm just gonna relax, follow the signs. It may be painful, but that means something greater is coming, and I know this because I've experienced it, and I'm always taken care of, right? So to me, at the very beginning, it's scary when you haven't gone through that cycle and you have no context, and you think things are forever and falling apart. But once you've gone through it and you realize, oh, it does get better. Oh, it's happening for me. Oh, this is actually what I prayed for. Wow. Then you start to trust more.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for you today, because I think some people, there's there's a whole realm of energy out there, energy work. And for them, it's like, oh, but I'm just material. The invitation to trust is probably one of the key ones, right? Because maybe part of them shut down because it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm messing with over here. How do you invite people into that trust around energy?
To me, it depends, right? For me, I had no other option, right? Because sometimes people it would be nice if you got invited into it. A lot of times you get nudged into it. A lot of times you have no choice. Like, you tried everything, you are in pain, nothing works, and you're like, let me try this, right? So for me, that was kind of like my journey. Is like, one of the first things I wanted to heal was my abundance wounds, because in my family, we grew up. My dad's an entrepreneur, and we grew up, we had everything, and then we lost everything, right? We went bankrupt, and I remember that it cost a lot of pain in with my mom, and I have 4 younger sisters, and it caused, just like a complete lifestyle change. And for the longest time, I thought to myself, it's my responsibility to fix this for the family, because I want to bring this missing piece back, because I felt like it was taken quickly from us growing up. So the first thing I wanted to heal, whether I might not have been conscious of it back then, was my money and abundance wound. So to me, that was the dangling carrot of the universe, right? Here's abundance, want to heal it. So when I went through energy healing, I tried everything, nothing worked for me. And I was in a business to where I was like, gosh, I want to grow this business, but I don't know how to grow it. I've tried everything, nothing works. A friend was like, get energy healing. I did. And then I was so skeptical. I was so negative, all those different things. I wasn't ready. And then within 4 to 5 weeks after that healing, I made more in one day than in an entire year. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't care what this is. I'm just going to go down the rabbit hole, because if this is what it can do, then what am I missing in life, and what do I not know, right? So for me, it was more of a shock and awe, because I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. I was fighting it. But when that happened, I was like, okay, I am going to explore it, right? So for me, that was my experience. For other people, literally, it's like they have no choice. They've tried everything, and they want to try something. And for some, they get an invitation. They have the invitation that keeps growing and growing, and they can't push away. And they're like, okay, fine, I'm just going to do this, right? But when it comes to trust, I feel like it takes a while. It's not an instant thing. And I don't think it's one of the things that you have to get perfect every single day. I think a lot of times one moment of surrender can go a long way in your life. It doesn't have to be I'm surrendering every single day of my life and this is what it is. I've had it to where at the right moments when you surrender the one time changes your entire life. That's it. Because to me it's the act of it and what it does for you, right? So to me it's like you build up to it. It's harder. It's harder at higher levels to surrender, of course, because there's a lot more to lose, right? But it stretches you in the best ways.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole question around the final surrender and when we leave and what happens to our energy. But one of the things I wanted to dive into, because I just wanted to, there's a perfect segue here. What we're discussing is there are people tuning into this podcast that have really remarkable businesses of their own and they're on their path. Is like you mentioned this, making in a day what you made in a year.
Yeah.
And I think, the energy kind of work kind of gone, wait, what's possible? Which I love that. And the interesting piece there is, do you like working with, let's just call them a founder, working with a founder, obviously their energy work impacts the organization to a certain degree, right? But then also, do you ever do are there the business as an entity, does that ever require energy work? Do you ever do energy work on
Sure.
a business as an entity as well? Two questions.
It's a good question. I mean, my first love has always been entrepreneurship, so I'm always like lots of different business investments on the side and stuff like that. But I work with a lot of people that are have the biggest companies in the world, like founders of the biggest social media. They're founders or CEOs. I work with people that deal with a lot of people. And what I've realized, it depends on the size of the organization. Like if it's a smaller size, a lot of the times, right? I've seen it actually. Let me change it again. It depends on also who's leading it. If you have somebody who is potent and they have strong energy and they can move the needle, they can do that for an organization with, a few 100,000, a few million people. They can do it. If from the top you've got it, that helps, right? And to me, yeah, you can do work on organization, but it's not as important as the people in it. So to me, it always starts at the top, right? It always starts at the top, and because that energy can be felt throughout the entire organization. The top is what feeds the energy, the fuel. They set the tone, the vibration. So if you've got someone on the top that's kind of weak, it's floundering, you don't know who they are. They're kind of like one way here, one way there. Like it can be challenging. But if you have someone that's like they're solid in it, it makes a huge difference. So I really believe that and if you look at it, if you look at humanity, if you look and you study ascended masters and people who've changed the world, like you don't need a lot. You have people that are past, they're long gone, and they did their work so well, they shine so bright, they had so much potency that even after they're gone, they're still affecting billions of lives, right? So to me, whether it's the Buddhas, the Jesus, the Gandhis, I think that's what we're missing as humanity, is that knowing that we have that within, the power that we have, that if we, evolve to our full potential, embrace that and shine, the power of one is so underrated, right? We only think it's reserved for the few, but I'm like, no, we have it. It's just they had the passion, the courage, the guts to go for it full force, and that's the effect. So that's why, to me, a lot of the times, that's what I work on with people, is realizing that a lot of what they have, a lot of what they seek, a lot of what they think is missing, it's all within. It's just that there's so many mental blocks at times, or energetic blocks, or rules that prevent us from even thinking or even knowing what's possible, right? So I think that's why I love it when you're like, it's evolution, because that's what it is. And I don't even know how to call it, because I feel like we were there, we go into this planet, and then we forget everything, and they're returning back to the knowledge that we've acquired that's infinite and expansive in nature. So a lot of it is it evolving, or is it returning, right? Because to me, it's like when I see people return back to their natural state, it's like it's magic, right? It's magic. So to me, it's like maybe it's evolving as a human, but returning to your soul. Maybe it's both. Maybe there's more than two ways to it. But to me, it's like we're just capable of so much more than we can even imagine. And if I look at my life, like I could have stopped 7 years ago, and that was my the goal of how far my mind could go. Right now, I'm living in uncharted territories. I don't know where I am, how I got here. I don't know what's next. I'm out of my comfort zone. There is no path ahead of me, and I'm building certainty, building the bridge as I'm walking it because I've never been here. And every time I go to a place that I'm like I just get comfortable and get used to it, then I'm growing again and it's uncertain, right? So to me, where I am right now, I could have never imagined it. Never imagined it.
What is it about the last 7 years that's been so uncertain? You didn't have a vision as of after that point?
I mean, just the level of how fast things can happen. Because a lot of things, and a lot of times people are like, they're not prepared for it. Not prepared for it. And a lot of times people are like, hey, Oliver, like, I want, I'll give you an example. I had one gal who was like, I want abundance in life. And we did energy work. She went to one of our programs. And I tell people, the biggest thing you got to prepare for is what if you get that abundance before you're even ready? Because a lot of times people have rules. So like when someone launches a business, they're like, oh, I gotta get an LLC, I gotta get a domain, I gotta get the branding, I gotta get this, SEO, that. There's all these different steps. And then maybe 7 months later, I can do this, right? And to me, like, what if, this big thing that you want, shows up day one, week two, people freak out. And to me, a lot of times those expectations become the blocks because I've seen people that are like, yeah, it'll take me a while to get there. And then one gal in our workshop, like she's like, yeah, I think I need an extra 6 figures in my business, but I think I have to do this, launch this, that, this one, and the next thing you know, she comes back home, and then that week Monday, they get a check for 120,000 because somebody locked the contract with them, and they just showed up in her desk, and her team members put it in there, and she was like, how, what? And I'm like, when you're in the right vibration, things come, and the hardest thing is to get on board with it's okay to break all the rules with speed of how fast it comes, right? And a lot of times that happens. People are like, I want to manifest love, but I have to love myself. I have to do this. I have to get a job, da 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 da. And the next thing your soulmate comes in, and they're like, they self-sabotage because they're like, oh, I'm not ready for you yet because in order to get to you, I need to have pain, more pain, and more work, and they push it off. So to me, that's one of the big things that we're wired is like, what would you do if what you want comes tomorrow, comes this week? And how can you prepare for it and not push it away? Because a lot of times it happens. What you want comes before you're ready. You push it away because you've got rules of how it has to look like. And then when you feel worthy or ready, then you take that step.
Somewhere in preparation for this podcast, I came across this nugget, which was initially your healing work was much more masculine by ways of, people were coming into the containers and, they were processing things, they were purging, they were moving things out of their system. And then you observed your partner's healing containers and they were much more like there was this unconditional openness kind of love, and it was like a gentle sort of softening. And then, there's been this sort of learning from each other as you guys go. It reflected upon me this masculine versus feminine energy. And we had a Kabbalah teacher on the podcast, and he said masculine and feminine comes with a lot of baggage. He started to, and it just fits really perfectly in this conversation because we're talking about sacred geometry. He calls them straight lines and circles. And then you've mentioned the word spiral a few times. And with the Kabbalistic awareness, he kind of goes, he puts the, sorry, I'm going to do this thing, which actually looks kind of rude, but like the spiral go, like the circle around the line, and sort of the masculine provides structure, and the feminine is that, the container, and then they sort of move together in this spiral energy. That's been a pretty profound awareness. I think a lot of things in my awareness just coalescing as I'm talking to you in and around the energetic work of men, females, and just what a spiral is. Like I'm just lights are going off in my head.
I love where you're going with this. To me, I look at so masculine energy feminine energy. I feel like there's lower level masculine, lower level feminine, and that's our wounded self. That's the programming of the world. But when I'm talking about masculine energy and feminine, I'm talking about higher level energy, divine masculine, divine feminine, yin and yang, that each one of us house, right? To where it doesn't matter your gender. I feel like we can house masculine and feminine divine energy within, and when you have the balance of both, because we need both in life. We need the flow, and we need direction. We need creation, and we need, and so we need to go between both. For me to fully experience the best in life, I feel like you need both, and that was one of the things that my wife gifted me. I guess when I first met, before I met her, like I was all masculine, all go go go, like, it was intense, and people around me were purging, and I was just like, I was so intense in a way to where I'm like, it worked, but I didn't know there was another way. And I'll give you an example. We were living in Laguna Beach, and back then we were doing workshops at our house, and one of the rules that we had was people had to go through our program before they go through our workshop. Because I was like, I just want a high success rate. So I want people who know us, who like us, who trust us, who've done the work, and then they can go to the workshop. I don't want anyone who's blind to our work to not be able to come, right? And then our team member called up and she was like, there's this one gal, she's never done your workshop, but she's very suicidal. She's written the letter, and are you going to help her? And I was like, my soul was battling with my mind. My mind's like, the success rate, but my soul is like, but it's your calling. So I'm like, screw it, let's do it. So she went in, and she came in, and day one, right? It was a joint workshop, me and my wife. And day one, she comes in, and we could just tell she, like, everything that could ever beat a person down is happened to her, and she was wearing it in her face, and you could tell. You're like, this person is like, when you look at them, it's almost like you can barely see. They're like a shell of a human being, and you can barely see them. It's like they're just blank because of all the things that have happened, right? So I was like, I wasn't worried about it. I was like, okay, I know this thing. Like, this is day one, day two, day three. Third day is when they're all gonna shift. So I'll let her sit for one, day two, and observe. And day three, I'm gonna do this, and that, and she won't be suicidal anymore. I've done this so many times. I just know how to do it. I'm gonna do it. So I wasn't worried. When I have these things happen to me, I kind of rise up to the occasion, and it doesn't bother me, right? And so I was like, I got this. So I was just paying attention, right? And then day two comes, and she is like, there's color in her face. It's bright, and I was like, is this a prank? What's going on? I was just so baffled, because to me, I was like, there's steps to these things. There's steps to transformation. And I haven't even been to step one. And she was sharing in front of the group, and she was like, I don't feel suicidal anymore. And I was like in the back of the room, very, very confused. And she was like, I don't feel suicidal anymore. I was yesterday, and now I just feel I'm good. I feel like I got everything I need. And I was like, how? There are steps. You haven't gone through it. And and what she said next, like, stuck with me. And she's like, when I walked in the room yesterday, I felt energy from Mandy, my wife, and she had so much unconditional love that she was housing that it allowed all the broken pieces to come back together and heal. And that, to me, I just don't feel suicidal. I just feel healed. And that was like such an eye-opening experience for me, because I was like, I can do the work. I can go through the steps. I can logically take them there, or I can figure out what this magical love vibration is, that she doesn't even have to say the words and do the thing, and they heal. I'm like, my entrepreneurial mind was like, that's efficient. So to me, that's how I got hooked. As I just saw how that worked and how quick it was, how powerful it was. And the more I integrated that and kind of like worked on that, then it started getting gentler, to where people would still get intense results in healing, but there was no purging. There was very little pain. Because to me, the way I look at it was, when you have so much love that you're bringing in, the pain is like, it's Like love is the lubricant for light. And when we're healing, there's so much information, there's so much light that we're going through. And love, to me, it buffers it. So to me, the more I've increased, that is just the more things that worked out beautifully for me. And I feel like throughout the day, I'm going between higher level masculine, higher level feminine, and depending on what you're dealing with life, I think you need both, to be honest.
I just want to turn the podcast off at love is the lubricant for light.
Right? I know. Like that's something my wife came up with it, and I'm like, that is, that is brilliant.
I mean, I don't know how to ask a question after that. I mean, thank you so much for that sharing. That is profound.
Right.
But man, that's really sitting with me. Okay, I've had some questions. I've been circling around. Well, karma. Let's talk about that one. So, people think karma is a bit quid pro quo sort of thing, like as you do, you will receive sort of thing. And there's almost like this, there's karmic law. There's like a ledger up there, and I'll do this, and then that'll happen to me. And maybe it's all happening in the energetic dynamics between people. In my awareness, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Karma is more, and I look at it as an energy. Right. Yeah. It's this thing that, because you don't just lock it into this life. Like you've been carrying, like there are karmic propensities through lifetimes, right? And where does that exist? Does it exist in your material body, or where did, it seems much more energetic in its nature.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, just from my worldview, to make a little bit more sense, if I can, like you, like entrepreneur, like engineer by background, it's like, get grounded around certain things. For me, it makes a bit more sense because it's like, rather than there being a ledger of like, oh, you took that person's toothpaste, now you owe them toothpaste. It's more like when something doesn't feel right in terms of your intentionality, then it sort of impacts you a certain way. And I'm sure, that needs to be reconciled in the field of oneness in some way. I'd love to get your thoughts and insights on karma and energy, if that's okay.
Right. Fantastic question, by the way. Okay, so I feel like there's layers to it. So I feel like there are things called soul contracts, to where before we come into this life, we got the soul team, soul family. Like maybe they hooked us up in the last life, and we're gonna hook them up in this lifetime, or maybe we make a deal with them of like, hey, like if I ever get lost in this lifetime, I need you to do this to wake me up, and it's gonna be painful, and I'm gonna hate you for it in the lifetime, but it's gonna wake me up, right? So I feel like there's these things that we have that are pre-agreed upon before coming on the planet. So there's that, where that's why people show up in our life, and we're the teachers for them, or they're teachers for us, and they teach us lessons that are through beauty or through pain that help us to expand and to grow and to move forward in life, right? So I think there's that part of it. And to me, the way I've always seen karma, I thought about it when I grew up. I thought like, oh, don't do that, because if you do that, they might do it back to you, and it's gonna come back to you. I have come to realize it's all vibration based, right? If you're in that vibration, pain just follows you from lifetime to lifetime, and bad things happen to you, and you're not worthy, or you're flawed, and you're repenting for it, and you're paying for it. I feel like, it's kind of like I have people that come to me, and they're like, I can't have dreams they're bad. I'm seeing ghosts. I'm seeing evil things. There's black magic, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that exists in a certain vibration. It just doesn't exist in my vibration. It can't touch me. And then I get them higher, and it goes away. So to me, I feel like karmic is vibration based, right? To where if you're in that vibration and you're stuck in that through line of the past, and you haven't evolved, that's all you receive. And I think at any given moment you can shift beyond that, and life can be beautiful. And a lot of the times I've seen it happen to where people have it to where one day it's like bad things happen one after another. It's like the bill, the light goes out, your computer gets flat tire, bad news, and you're like, oh my gosh, when it rains it pours, right? And there might be like, wow, I'm so unlucky. What the heck? People can call that karma if they want to, but it's like one series of bad things after another, and the next thing you know, that same person can all of a sudden be like experiencing a lot of good things. Got a raise, unexpected money, check in the mail, good news, this got approved, project's moving forward, you get a compliment, you get, all those different things, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And people think, oh wow, you just have good luck. But to me, like, that's vibration based. At one moment, you probably unconsciously dipped in vibration and you were in that vibration to where life was happening to you. You're getting slammed left and right and you were unlucky and it probably karma's getting to you. And another vibration, like, good things are happening to you. But to me, if you have all this karma you're having to pay for, then why are you experiencing all these good things in a day if you have all these things that you have to pay for, right? So that's when I realized that karmic stuff and karma is vibration based, and you can dip or you can raise up, but I don't think that it's set in stone. I don't think that now you have to pay back for all the karma that you did, 300 lifetimes, and you're paying it all here. Like, I just don't believe that that's the case. I believe that reality is malleable moving forward. It's very, very fluid, and a lot of it, if that's what you believe in, and that's what you let your consciousness do, then that might be the reality that you're locking into, and it might show up as such. And I'm pretty sure there are people that live their lives to where I'm growing up. There were people that believe that, like, hey, if you see a black cat, it's bad luck. Cross the street, right? They see it all the time, right? And to me, I just never believed it. And people that believed it, bad things would happen. They would say, oh, this thing happened and this and that. And for me, I was like, meh, and nothing ever happened. So to me, it's just like when I started seeing these inconsistencies in this is what's going to happen and this is the belief, but I'm like, well, it didn't happen for me or for that person. Then I started realizing it's not the ultimate truth, right? But they're in the vibration to where that is their truth. Therefore, I feel like maybe that's what's available.
I love that. It sort of implies that the future is this kind of quantum soup of infinite potentialities. Using the word quantum, obviously there's that idea of like, as things are quantumly like entangled, and I don't really like the word entangled. I like quantum connection better. But nonetheless, there's that idea that like, if you rewind that theory, somehow your mind gets to this point like where everything must be entangled because it all must have started as just one cell, a couple of cells. Like, there is a unified energy field amongst all beings, right?
I think, man, I love this because to me, I feel like the universe and everything in creation is within us. I feel like, and they did this studying holograms, right? And when they saw that, like, you have the map of the whole, and when you take a small piece of it, energetically, it still has the map of the entire thing. Energetically, it has it. So to me, that's how I look at interconnectedness. We're all interconnected, right? To where there's butterfly effects, ripple effects that can be felt from people, from the other side of the world that you don't even know is affecting you. We're all connected in the sea of consciousness. Like, to me, the one drop, we're like one drop of water in the whole ocean, but we're still part of the ocean, right? And my belief is that, like, at higher and higher levels, we can access the whole ocean. But when we're in our human story and our limitations, we just think we're that single drop. Versus we have the wisdom of the whole. It's just that, again, no one ever tells you that. And if you start talking that way, you get labeled as crazy, right? They're like, what are you on, right? But to me, I feel like we're all connected. I feel like everything that's outside is within. And I feel like when you do the deep work within, you're doing the work. You can be doing the work for the collective by doing the work within, because the programs that exist within us is the same thing that exists to everything that we're connected to. So we shift that, it shifts everything around us, right? And I'm a big believer in that we are creators of our own reality, and that, and I've seen it happen so many times. People come to me and they're like, you know what, I want to fix my husband or my son's going through addiction, or they're in pain. I just want to heal them. Can you, Oliver, can you fix them? And I'm like, for 90 days, trust me on this one. Don't focus on them, focus on you. And if this doesn't work in 90 days, then we can explore the latter. Just focus on you. Because the thing is, because I know that person's connected to everybody. That person's that person is that person's environment, so they're gonna affect everybody anyway. And I was like, just focus on you. And the next thing you know, 45 days later, 60 days later, they're like, my son's doing better, my husband's doing this, and I didn't even work on that. And it shows them the power of like interconnectedness. That when we work on ourselves right? It affects everyone around us in ways that we're never going to be able to even wrap our mind around. But I feel like it affects all of creation as we do it within ourselves. So to me, that's why I think the universe is within us, right? And it's a lot of inner work. And I feel like inner work, is global work.
That was the perfect segue into my next question. Was the world at large. Do you see a collective energetic pattern? The world seems to be in a really interesting place, Oliver. I mean, even some people carrying spiritual awarenesses at the moment can look around and kind of go, whoa, what's going on? And it seems like their sort of rope that they're hanging on to is like there's a lot of breakdown because there's a breakthrough that's coming through. But we see it to be quite like an interesting time to be incarnated here on Earth and witnessing what's going on all around the world.
I look at it a little differently. So I look at it as, I don't know, my thought is like maybe there are people in this world that are not of this world, and we come here to lift the vibration, to raise the vibration of the planet. Right? So when I'm seeing the problems of the world, I'm not seeing it as is. I'm seeing like, oh, maybe this is why I was born at this specific time. Maybe what I have to offer is a solution to what I'm seeing. Therefore, cause and effect hasn't started yet because I'm still doing my work. Therefore, maybe this is just showing me, giving me empathy and compassion for all the things that I am here to help with, and maybe that's why I'm born, right? So when I'm looking at things, I'm looking at things not as broken. I'm looking at things that's a byproduct of the past. And if I have something here to give that can affect it, gosh, let me get going and let me do it faster. So to me, it's I try to live in the world, but not live in the world, because to me, I know the future is malleable. Things can change, and I know, I look at things more in a systematic point of view of like, what I'm seeing is an effect, a fruit, a branch, and I'm here to affect the root, and that's what I'm going to do. So if I haven't done that yet, then of course the fruit's not going to change. So let me go deeper into my work. Let me reach more people. Let me help more. Let me get more of my stuff out there. That's why I like, to me, that's why, you write books and do all those different things, is because I want to make sure, like, I want to spread information far and wide, because I feel like we are where we are now for a lot of reasons. Us not realizing our power, us giving our power away, us not accepting our spiritual gifts, us not realizing our nature, and when all that clicks, and you have billions of people waking up enlightened again, then the world changes. But it starts with 1% at a time. So to me, I'm looking at it not as when I look at it, I just look at it as like, okay, there's a lot of work to be done, and that's why I'm here, and that's why a lot of other people are here, because we need to affect the planet, and that's what we were called to do. It's what we were born to do. So to me, it doesn't freak me out in a bit. I try not to give too much power away to it, because a lot of people end up doing not to the fault of their own. It's just because it's very debilitating and disempowering when you look around and you think that you have no control of the world, of your reality, of everything. When you realize and you start waking up to the fact that you are a creator of your own reality, and you can make a difference, and you can make an impact, and that you are more than what you've ever thought you are, then things get exciting really, really fast.
I want to take what you just said and put it as the caption to the Inspired Evolution, to be honest.
Go for it.
It's a total Inspired Evolution.
Which part?
All of it, just the individual, the collective, and how it all comes together. And it's incumbent upon us, like the future is potentiated, and like we're here to actually serve. And what you see is like it's a call to arms, in such a beautiful way. At this particular juncture in the conversation, I wanted to zoom in on a particular lens, because there are people that are tuning in here. It's like, okay, cool. Like there's a theme in there around impact, okay? And it took me a while to work through my financial stuff, because I've definitely been through that phase, which is like, money and spirituality, and there's kind of like this rub between the two. And even now, I know on this podcast, some people will tune in, they'll look at like coaching, mentoring programs and all this sort of stuff that, you know, yourself, myself, you've got programs, you've got retreats, like all this stuff that is offered. And they're like, if it was really spiritual, it would be free. And part of me is like, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but also I've got like kids, and like, how do I pay the mortgage to keep the roof over their head free? Like, you know, the podcast. Anyway, so there seems to be this real rub between spirituality and finances in people's world. And I think it just is such a poetic combination that you're carrying as like a spiritual activator, lover of entrepreneurship. And it's just like, man, if I got to have this conversation with you.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, I get this. This shows up all the time, actually, and I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of energy healers are not well off, right? And to me, I'm a big believer of like, when you have these thoughts that come up, asking people, is it really yours, or is it a familial thought, to where it's the thought pattern in your family? Is it a religious thought? Is it a spiritual thought in terms of like a certain religious belief? That's the global thought, right, around it. And what I've realized with that belief, it is something that's been passed on. I've heard it so many times. You know, Jesus is a healer. He didn't charge for it, right? So-and-so is this. Spirituality should be free. You're like, you know, oh, you're making money off your gift, you're evil, right? And to me, I feel like these are all limiting beliefs. It's very much the same as someone saying, money is the root of all evil. You know, it's lonely at the top, right? If you're rich, then you're not happy. To me, I feel like these are beliefs that we weren't born out. You know, it's like we came out, from the tummy, kicking and screaming, thinking this way, right? It's something that we learned along the way, and we repeat it as our own because we've heard it enough times to where, in order to avoid rejection, or in order to fit in, or because it brought a sense of certainty, we're just like, okay, this is just the belief. But I'm a big believer that that's not our true belief, right? And as far as we didn't come with that, it's not the truth. And to me, I see it hold a lot of people back, right? And I make the argument. I'm like, if I'm a healer, and you have healers out there that I see, and to me, you have doctors that spend all this time, all this money to learn how to be doctors, and the next thing you know, they're there, helping people, saving lives in the emergency rooms. If they're a surgeon, they're there saving lives, right? And they get paid for it. No shame, there's no guilt. They get paid for it because that's what they do. Then you have firefighters that go into danger. They go into a burning house, burning building, pull people out, inhale all that, or get exposed to all these different things, and they're doing it, and they're saving a life, and they get paid for it. Then you have a healer, who, when they're healing, they take a long time, at times, if they're learning it, to heal, and then they heal people. And when they're healing, they're taking on stuff. It affects their health, it affects their entire life. It affects their energy. They may be drained, but they have shame because you're not supposed to heal. You're not supposed to charge as the healer, right? So to me, I feel like it's an abundance block, to be honest, for people, to where it's just, people just haven't had a role model to be like, you can have it all. You can be a healer and get paid. You can be an artist and get paid, because the thing is, yes, this energy and healing is a gift, but it also requires upkeep. It requires you doing a certain thing. It takes on from your energy. And like anybody in the world that has energetic exchange, we unfortunately live in a world to where I feel like money is the currency for survival. And to me, if healers had a lot of money, they could reach a lot more people. They could help a lot more people versus like being only in the small community that they serve. I've seen that. The people that are, in tiny villages, they're great healers. They're not making any money. Therefore, their gift is just limited here. But if they had the money, right, and they had the support, they'd be flying around healing everybody from all over the world. And they'd be happy. Everybody would be happy. Everybody wins. But I think this lack of mentality hinders people. And to me, I'm also a big believer of people that serve the world at the highest levels, right? Think about it. If you're somebody here that's here to awaken people like you. You're in this podcast, and I think, to me, there's a lot of different types of healers. I think you're a healer. You're healing the mind. You're waking people up. You're giving them a different thought. So to me, it's a level of healing, and people I feel that support the collective at higher levels, they're rewarded with abundance at the higher levels. Because think about the amount of energy that needs to flow through you to serve so many people. That's a lot of energy flowing through you, right? But like one of my friends says, like, if God, the universe, higher power is trying to give you money, give you abundance, it's a matter of it's gold pouring from the sky. If your palm is closed because you have abundance blocks, it's not gonna go anywhere, right? So to me, it's all about us being like, yes. And a lot of the times this yes means, evaluating our rules and some of our thoughts on what's blocking money, right? And that to me is like a big one, is realizing that, like we've got blocks to money and abundance, and a lot of it, it's not even ours. It's learned, it's borrowed, and it over time we think it's us because we've said it so many times. But the question I ask people is that, is it really yours? And if it's something that empowers you in your life and it lifts you up, defend it. But if it's something that debilitates you, then get curious, question it a little bit, see if it's something that you really want to keep. Right. So I'm a big fan of that thought process.
The thing that really helped me as well, and continues to help me actually on this journey, is this awareness that, and I think it's beautiful that we're this deep in the conversation around energy. There are forces in the world through, like, money is an energy, and through just through the world, there are so many businesses carrying a different kind of intention to the kind of intentions you and I are carrying in this podcast, let's just call it that are bending the tree a certain way. Maybe we can call them lower vibrational. And then for me, it's like, those forces, we can sort of see them at work, and then there's an opportunity. It makes it almost incumbent upon us to figure out how to get behind our message and the impact that's possible with money as an energy to sort of swing, to bring the tree back the other way as well, like conscious social activism, like this, social enterprise. There's so much positivity coming through. And looking at it from a lens of impact, I mean, I'm sure the entrepreneur in you would agree, right? That the impact piece is a real, for me, it guides me through my blocks. Maybe I'm just a bit too masculine, but in there it's like looking at something, how to get what I'm getting through to on the other side. I always kind of need a little bit of a light. That really helps. Maybe I should learn to trust and surrender more. But that impact piece has been like, because I can see the impact of, the other forces at bending the tree one way, and here's an opportunity for us to bend our tree the other way.
I mean, honestly, like, I'm wired like 70 to 80% left brain till today. To where, to me, I'm still going to have the goals. It still comes up, and I'm like, all right, I'll get to surrender when I get to surrender. I still have that drive, and I think that's the beauty of it, is like you never really lose it. And I think it's one of the trade-offs with being a spiritual being here in this physical existence, is you're going to have the wants of the human because you're in a human body and you're in this world, and you're going to have your higher power, higher self going like, okay, time to surrender. And you're not going to get it perfect, but you're going to get it right enough times to where it works for you, right? So to me, it's like I still have, like, I'm like, okay, I'm surrendering, and in my moment of surrender, I have an idea. I'm like, okay, that's my goal. Right? Because to me, when I surrender, I'm surrendering just enough for it to be quiet. And the thing that comes in, what if the goal that's being put in your heart is your intuition? Right? What if that's what it is? Because a lot of people think like, oh, I can't, I got to surrender. To me, I'm surrendering so I can release all the noise and I can hear the signal, the sign. And when that comes, I'm like, I'm going for it. This is it. Until I'm nudged to surrender, I'm following what comes in that moment of clarity. And to me, it's all about purpose. I mean, me and my wife, it's been several years. We started this philanthropic initiative in the Philippines called Hustle and Heart, and we've self-funded over 70 different initiatives over the years. To where, to us, that's big. To us, it's big. To where, when we're blessed, we bless others. And there's different ways of doing it. And to me, I'm a big believer of like, I want to leave a lasting impact. So to me, it's like, okay, the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to invest a lot of my time into putting a lot of free stuff out there, because my ever since I had a the situation where there was this gal that was part of one of my programs. It was for an entire year, and I thought I knew her, but apparently not well enough because, like, I saw her change and it got better and all success stories and her life is good. And one day, randomly, like, and she just mentioned, like, Oliver, like, I was watching one of your videos on Instagram, and I didn't tell you this, but you actually saved my life. She had taken some pills, right? And she decided that was it. And my video popped up, and she got inspired, and she called, like, the emergency, and decided that, go to the hospital, get it pumped out, and decided, like, I'm going to live, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, what video are you talking about? Because in my mind, I'm like, a video? Is it an advanced video? Is it what did I say? Maybe it's something I did, and I was my mind was just like focused on what video did she see that saved her life, right? And she told me it was a video where I was talking about empaths and how people can be sensitive. That was it. And my mind, my monkey mind was like, really? Empaths, energy? There's nothing advanced. It's so basic. How can that save a life? And to me, it's probably not what I talked about, but probably the energy and the care and the love that I had when I was doing the video that could be felt. But ever since then, I thought to myself, my gosh, if I have a video that I didn't even think was impactful and it saved a life, then what can my videos do? What can my content do? So to me, when I heard that, I was like, gosh, I'm just gonna put as much free content as I can out there because I don't know who I'm impacting, but as I'm doing that, I know I'm making a difference. So I kind of like balancing it out with, like, acts of kindness, of like supporting initiatives, like, all these different things that we support with our money. And then I also like doing things that I feel will make a lasting impact for people, which is like healing and shifting their energy and their identity and all that stuff. And I feel like that goes a longer way than just money. But we try to do both, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I can feel we're coming into a close, and I wanted to ask you this about where we transition to from here. At the risk of making this too dark, I won't share too much, but recently I've watched someone transition, and it was quite profound watching them in their final moments here in this life. And because one moment they were here, their energy was here, and even in the moment they took their last breath, you could tell that they were still in the room somewhat.
Yeah.
And it took about 10, 15 minutes, and there was a cold that sort of, the room became cold, and you could tell that there was like a warmth that had left the space.
Yeah.
Your awareness on energy as it kind of moves into this life and out of this life?
That's a beautiful question. Growing up in the Philippines, I've been to at least like 40 or 50 funerals. It was just a thing, and like, people just gathered. It was a celebration, like, and we had a big family there, like, it's like, so I've been to a lot of funerals, and like, I kind of got almost like immune to it in a sense, seeing it so much growing up. And then one of the moments that really got to me was when my grandmother passed. She was she was like, her and I were super connected, and she had cancer, and we cared for her for years. She lived with us, and we were very, very close. And I remember I was there holding her hand, taking her final breath in the hospital. And I remember when she passed, because it was the same thing. It was like the room got cold, right? But then my heart got warm. And I didn't know back then. I just thought that's weird. But her energy stayed with me ever since then. So I feel like a few things happen when people pass. I feel like when we're here, our consciousness, this is not our complete consciousness. I believe we're part of something bigger, and we fractal off, right, into the space. And I feel like a few things happen is like when we pass, our energy fractals goes back to the whole, right, where we are, and it's also fractals off, and it's left in this physical plane, and a lot of times, goes into the hearts and the energies of our loved ones, and it's there. So I feel like when I look at energy, because even right now, if I look at where we are as your soul in this body, I feel like we're multidimensional beings. I feel that even though we're here, Your energy can be working somewhere else in the world or somewhere else in a different place, and it's also there with another consciousness. It's just a different mission, right? So to me, I believe that energy and the soul never really, like, to me, it's like it fractals off, goes back to the source or whatever that higher source is, and some stay here, and I believe at that level, you return back to where you exist in a plane to where higher level beings exist, which is omnipresence. You're everywhere, right? I'll give you an example. Like if talking about like, angels, because a lot of, my people that follow me, that's one of the things that they like is like angel practices. Like if people pray and like, hey, Archangel Michael, protect me, right? Think about it. If you have 1,000,000 people praying at one given time, asking for Archangel Michael's protection, it's not like it's going to take him 10 years. It's going to go one by one and it's going to go in line, right? It's his energy is so potent that it fractals off and does every one of them all at the same time, because that's what fractal technology is all about. You're in all dimensions, all frequencies, like, and everything is like it's like this big consciousness to where you can do so many different things in a snap of a finger, because you exist in a vibration to where you've got no limitations of time, of space, of human blocks. You are just at the highest space, and I feel like that's what we have at higher levels. That's what we can access, whether we're there or we're here, right? It's the same to me. It's just that's something that we can access while we're here or there, but it's what we come from and who we are, I feel.
I was just reminded about this podcast that we had with a Dharmic teacher on the fourth turning of the wheel, and they were talking about how these medicine Buddhas in the past, we created potentially this insight, like the sigil and the sort of magic around the intention of the medicine Buddha, and then thousands of years of people meditating in, and like part of their energy is into the field, and then that field also then people can connect into and then receive as well, and just kind of this ontology of like energetic fields, the other side, and then also what bleeds into this. It's just this really, your mind really starts to open and expand when you start feeling into energy, Oliver.
Yeah, and that's actually like, why I wrote my last book, Do This Before Bed. I was driven to write that because, to me, one of the most underutilized times to me is the bedtime. People misunderstand it. To me, when you go to sleep, it's pure soul and energy work. You're learning, you're traveling, you're releasing, you're active. That's 6 to 8 hours. So much stuff gets done to where people are like, gosh, like, I don't know if I can, like, to me, it's the most underutilized time of your life is nighttime, and we do it every single night. To where there are times to where you might even wake up because you're in an active dream. And you're like, what's going on? And there's times you wake up because you're tired, and you're tired because you might be sleeping in this reality, but you're doing you're putting your double time in. You're doing work in another reality, right? And to me, that's one of the things that I realized, and I love it so much because here's the thing that I realized. You could either learn your lessons and energy can be expressed in the physical realm. You can lose a loved one here for your heart to open up and for you to have compassion, or that can happen while you're sleeping. And I've had that before where I'm sleeping and I think the dream is so real and I lose the loved one and I wake up and I'm crying and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, thank God they're still here. Then I remember it and I learned the lesson in dream form that I didn't have to learn in human form, right? So to me, I feel like the most underutilized is sleep, right? That's why I wrote the book on it, and I'm like, people just need to know. Like, to me, if there's one big hack, and people talk about, morning time, like morning routines, and I'm like, if I were to pick one, I would even need morning routines. I would do nighttime routines, because if you get the night right, you wake up and you don't even have to worry about the morning. To me, it's a byproduct of the nighttime. I kind of look at it more of like cause and effect, right? Get the nighttime right, the morning happens. So to me, I feel like, that we can experience more of our expansiveness that people can, experience when they pass. We can experience that in our dream form, in our dream state. It's available to us. It's just that we don't think of it that way, and that to me is one of the most fascinating kind of discoveries over the last 10 years for me. It's just like, gosh, nighttime is like, it's like spirit school. You're like you can like it. To me, it's like you're learning like Neo from the Matrix. You're like attached, you're downloading, you wake up and you're like, ooh, here you go. But people don't see it that way, right? But to me, it's like it's one of my favorite things to geek out on, to be honest.
I absolutely love that. For people that want to dive in and connect deeper to your work, Oliver, obviously there's your book that's available. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if people want to dive deep, I would start. To me, I put all my heart and soul into the books. Like, and the reason why is this: I look at it differently. I mean, if people can go to my events, my workshops, webinars, amazing. But I realize 99.9% of the world won't. And to me, my one of my KPIs of spirituality, let's say, is has always been impact, and that's why I kind of double down on like a lot of free content, because to me, like this stuff, like people are gonna be listening to this on their way to work, on their way somewhere, they're working out, and it's going to hopefully leave a seed, in their mind, plant the seed, change the way they think, or change their life, and it wakes them up. And I know a lot of people that I have a lot of friends that I'm like, they tell me like I watched this one podcast from so and it changed my life, and I'm like, wow, podcasts can do that for you. And I've heard it so many times to where, and it makes sense. It's an hour and a half of them listening and absorbing, right, and getting deep into a thought process, and a paradigm shift happens. So I'm like, I just want to give podcasts because I think it's gonna help people, and I'm gonna put everything I've got into a cheap book, because even if people don't meet me or do my work, I want them to leave with things that will forever alter their life. So to me, even though the workshops and all those different things are fun, to me, I try to put all of my best stuff, all of the things that I know that can radically change your life, in a free video, in a free podcast, or in a book. Because to me, it's more accessible, right? But to me, yeah. So if people wanted to dive deeper, I would say my new book, it's actually dothisbeforebed.com. Right? If they go to dothisbeforebed.com, it actually comes with 17 meditations. I was like, I'm just gonna, because the one I walked you through, I was like, gosh, I should have had music ready so I could have played it, right? But to me, I was like, let me just do meditations that are like 5 or 10 minutes each in different areas of life, like how to release money blocks, how to heal your body, how to manifest. And let me just and I went to the studio, professionally recorded it with meditation soundtracks, because I was like, if I'm going to create this book, I want people to listen to something every single night for free from the book, and they can just listen to that and it transforms their life. So it comes with 17 meditations that I recorded in the studio. So I was just like, I just want this to change so many lives, right? So to me, it's probably the best start. If they go check it out, I put my heart and soul into it.
I'll put a link to it in the description below. And I mean, I love the meditations we went through today and the 2 exercises. And yeah, man, it's worth it even if I don't read the book and just do the meditations, to be honest. I don't want to sound like that.
I mean, honestly, I'll tell you this, and this is probably because I'm going to be straight with you. Even if that's all you did, because in the book, I put like dozens and dozens of practices, but my hope is people will find one and they go all in and it changes their life. So for you, what I shared with you is so powerful because I've done it for myself. Even if you didn't read a book, which I hope you do, actually, email me your address. I want to send you a copy because right now it's sold out. So I want to send you a copy. But the meditation that I shared with you, it's so powerful. My hope is you try it out and you let me know how it works for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your generosity, not just in that, but also today, Oliver, like sharing your energy, your time, your presence with us. And I mean, brother, like it's so obvious that this is your life's work and passion, and your trust over the last 7 years, just the bridges appearing as you're putting the foot down. I mean, man, I just want to thank you for the work you're doing in the world and how you're showing up. And yeah, man, just thank you so much. Thank you for you.
Thank you. And I'm honored because to me, like I've been in quite a few podcasts and I can tell that you really do the work, and the questions that you have, it doesn't even feel like a podcast. You know what it feels like? It feels like we're off in some sacred land talking and sharing stories over dinner and like going over like, behind closed doors with no camera, and we're just sharing stuff. And this is what I do with friends and family members, and it's fun for me. So to me, it felt like it was just so you made it so fun and interesting, and something special about you, man. I'm so honored to be here.
Touch wood. Thank you so much, Oliver. I hope that means you'll be back again in the future. And yeah, between now and then, evolution is the name of the game, as we've discovered today. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
You, inspired soul, you made it through to the end of another incredible episode. I mean, energetically, even if I can say so, pun intended, this conversation was so incredibly rich. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to the podcast. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. Seriously, everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, the invitation is strong. Please welcome yourself and join the movement. As I'm saying, subscribe. The button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that button, hit the bell notification icon. Episodes like this coming out twice a week to champion love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet, supporting your inspired evolution onwards, upwards, and inwards. And if you did like this video, please don't forget to like the video. It really helps sharing it around with other people all around the globe. On screen now, an episode here with Jeffrey Allen, who is an incredible energy worker renowned for his teachings at Mind Valley, his teachings on oneness and duality. Have a look at that episode, and on screen another couple of episodes for you to dive in even deeper to your inspired evolution journey. So go on, take your pick, make your click, and I will see you in the next one. Go on, I'll see you there.